just looking at some of these headline numbers, are you suspecting that consumption and on the services side had a big role to play when it did come to this downside that we're seeing?
Yeah, well, that's what we had in mind. Actually, HSBC was forecasting a fall of 7.5%. So we were a bit more downbeat than the market. And a lot of what we had in mind was that services consumption was going to be particularly weak. Obviously, there was a huge amount of uncertainty about what was going to happen to services consumption, given large swathes of the economy were closed. And we haven't really had that event before. But as it turns out, the components, at least at a very quick brush, look roughly as we had in mind. A lot of it is extra weakness that we're getting in terms of consumer spending. Makes a lot of sense. We shut down the cafes and the restaurants, and we locked down a lot of the economy. And those parts of the economy obviously didn't show much economic activity.
Do you harbour any concerns that this might continue into Q3, considering the Victoria lockdowns as well?
Well, so that's the big question, really, now. I mean, Q2 is a bit of history, really, in the scheme of things. Do we get a pickup in GDP growth into the third quarter? And there's a big debate going on here in Australia because 75% of the national economy, all of the states outside of Victoria, are on some sort of recovery path. But Victoria is going the other direction, of course, because it's still in lockdown. So look, our netting out of that effect is that we will get a small rise in GDP in the third quarter, and we're expecting a much stronger recovery to get going from Q4 onwards, which is when we're assuming that the Victorian economy will then start to be reopened.
Paul, when you say much stronger, what can we expect? Put a number on it for Q4.
Well, so we've got a number that's got a two-handle, 2-point-something for the fourth quarter, and what we're working on is an assumption here that GDP is very, very weak, but just slightly positive in Q3, driven by the rest of the economy outside of Victoria. But by the time we get to Q4, the whole economy is on some sort of recovery path. And that revival that we're expecting into the fourth quarter, particularly in Victoria, is set to give us a much stronger recovery path. This gives Australia what we've been describing as a U-shaped recovery.